Yo, all right. What up, guys? So real quick, just to get the formalities out of the way. My name is G Rocka. I'm a producer, songwriter, mixing engineer. A lot of mixing the last couple years. Mastering engineer, right? Because everybody can master nowadays, um, or they think they can, right? Um, I produce for, and I hate doing this shit because every time I'm out with wifey, she's like, "Tell him what you do, tell him what you do," and it's just so cringe. I hate like listing what I've done or accomplishments or whatever. But it's YouTube, you got to do it, right? So otherwise, people always want to know like, well, what's your credibility and shit, right? So I produce for 50 Cent, Jadakiss, RZA, Bun B, Trey the Truth. I've had records on the show Power. I've done work for XXXL. I've done work for Complex. I've had I started off in the beat battle scene, the LA beat battle scene back in 2007. Okay. I know you guys think that shit is new, but we've been doing that since 2007. I've been making music for probably like close to 20 years now. Started writing when I was 12. Probably made my first beat in sophomore year. And the only reason why I started making beats was because I needed I needed my own beats to write to. So yeah, I've been doing this shit for a really long time. I am not some poppin' influencer. I don't have, a million followers on Instagram. Probably got like 1,200 right now if I'm thinking about it. But I just want to give my opinion, my perspective on my career. This is my career. It's my 9 to 5. I've been very blessed in my career, but I figured why not start a channel and give my perspective on things. I see a lot of things on YouTube, and there not a lot of people talk about things that I have or things that I've experienced. So I figure I'll just start a channel and see if my story resonates with you, or maybe I can lend something different than the other channels have done, right? So, but anyway, I'm gonna just start with why I went to why I went from a 3-way Barefoot footprint 03's and downgraded back to a 2-way, right? And it so just a disclaimer, I did have issues with the Barefoots, but this is not why I sent them back, right? Um, I went through 2 Barefoots. One was a used, uh, pre-owned certified open box or whatever they call it, and then the second one was brand new. And with both pairs, the left mid range, if you've seen the mid range on their sites, very small mid range, but for some reason the left side of the mid range kept rattling on the first pair. Month in, when I broke them in, it started rattling. Sent that back. They sent me a brand new pair, and after a month of breaking it in, the same rattling started happening on my left mid range, which is crazy because I don't really, I don't bang the speakers like that, right? I use them to mix. I don't really have like a whole lot of gatherings in here where I'm trying. It's a small studio space. It's super duper treated, so going up loud, you hear everything. It's like, so I don't know why it happened, but that's not why I went away from them. I mean, it did suck, but the sound is amazing, right? So it sounds amazing, but in the studio, I know how things are supposed to sound, and for some reason there was this 3.5K bump, and I tried to place the speakers in different areas, and I couldn't get it to get that bump to level out. I figured it was probably the crossover point, whatever, and then there was a dip, and I think it has a really high mid-range crossover point, higher than I would have liked. I'd like the mid-range to be lower, but there was definitely a dip at the crossover point from the mid-range. But like, okay, so once I measured it, I did my measurements or whatever, and you know, I mean, it sounded relatively flat after, I used Arc, and it sounded relatively flat afterwards. But for some reason, I could not get the mixes to translate. I tried mixing with the sound straight out of the box, uh, measured with Arc. I've tried mixing low. I've tried mixing at higher volumes. And, sometimes, yeah, like you get a mixes translate, you take it to the car, sounds great. But as soon as you pop it somewhere else, it's like it's not translating, right? And, you know, that was my first three-way, right? Because before that I had CLA 10s, and before that I had the Yamaha HS 7s, I think, or whatever they are. And so obviously it's like, okay, I'm getting more clients for mixing, producing, or whatever, so I need to step up to a three-way to get that extra detail. Or that's what they tell you. Move up to a three-way to get that extra detail, right? And I did, and it was almost too much detail. So I find myself like when I was mixing on them, it's like it's so much detail that you kind of start to lose perspective of the entire mix because you're so focused on the minute details, and what you're hearing sounds so great that it's hard to learn the speaker, even flat. I went through so many hours of like listening to other people's mixes, like some of my favorite mixes, and they sounded great, but I could never, it was so hard to mix on. And and then plus all the technical problems I was having with it, I was just like, man, I'm gonna just have to send these back because there's such a great investment. It can't be something that you're not sure about, right? Which really sucks because I love the sound. The sound was great. You get that Barefoot sound, and then they got the meme technology, like where you go to the. I think it just turns off the mid range. You can go to the cube, and it sounded great. Like I found myself doing better mixes when I was just on the cube setting. But even though the cube setting is a little bright, I wouldn't. They're not like a direct 1-to-1 of like your oratones or your mixed cubes or whatever. But they are a little bright. But I just found myself not getting mixes that didn't translate more often than not, right? And I think mainly it's just because of the three-way. It's just too much detail, and I think we get so caught up on like we got to get the three-way to hear all those details. Most people are not listening in three-way speakers, right? And I think you need to realize the people you're mixing for are people that are listening on a two-way or probably just one driver with like the earbuds or whatever, right? I mean, I don't know how many drivers they have, but so I sent them back and I was like, shit, well, I don't want to drop back down to a two-way, right? Because I feel like the two-way, I had already reached my ceiling with the two-ways, but then any other three-way in that price range was way more expensive. So I was like, well, let me look at these IK Multimedia Precision MTMs, right? They got the Mark IIs out right now, but I ended up I have the Mark I's, right? But so technically it's a two-way. It's a glorified two-way. It's got the MTM, it's got the mid, tweeter mid. But I was like, you know what, let me go with those. Cause it's got the ARC technology. I've been using ARC since 2008, 2009, their first iteration of ARC I bought. So I'm very familiar with the sound, I'm very familiar with the program, and I'm like, you know what? I like the fact that you can store the measurement in the speaker. That's awesome. I don't have to use the plug-in. So I'm like, it's technically not a three-way, but I'm getting the three-speaker design. So I'm like, let me just try it out. So they sent them, and instantly when I plugged them on and I just listened to the music, no measurements, I just out the box set them up. Instantly I was like, this is what I needed. This is what I want. This is what I wanted to hear out of my monitors, right? This is what it's supposed to sound like. And it's almost like and this is directly out of the box. Obviously, there's a small room. There's a ton of treatment. You can't really see it. I got these 2 traps right here that I move over when I'm mixing. The back wall's treated. I have a 3-panel ceiling cloud here. I got huge bass traps over here. These are all, I made these all with actual rock wool orange Corning 703 um, fiberglass, rigid fiberglass. Like I have the legit shit, right? So this room is dead. This room is super, super dead, which is I like a dead room, and it's a very small room. So obviously there's going to be a lot of buildup, bass buildup. But um, right away out the box, I knew I had a flat mid range, just like that. I'm like, this is what a flat mid range should sound, which is a trip because every speaker manufacturer says, okay, it's flat, plus or minus to this, whatever. But with the Barefoots, even with all the treatment in here, there was that 3.5 or whatever it was K bump, and you could tell right away. So it was like a signature sound that the speaker had. And with these speakers, I didn't feel like I'm getting a sound or like a flavor, if that makes any sense, right? I felt like I was just getting uh, a speaker that like more like less of a sound and more of just like a tool, right? If that makes sense. And so right out the box, I already love the sound. Obviously, it was super bassy, but I knew the mid range was flat. I could tell I've listened to flat for so long since I've been using ARC for so long. So then I did the measurements. I did the advanced one where you get like the 20 whatever measurements. All that low end dropped, right? And I mean, I'll do another video on the measurements and how I had a big ass knoll in the low end, which I don't have anymore. I moved my listening area further back. But just like I suspected, the mid range, the ARC didn't even correct anything from like 500 hertz to like 6K. It was ruler flat, which is what I expected bringing monitors in here because there's so much treatment in here, right? And sure enough, it did nothing in the mids because it was already flat. It rolled off a little bit on top end, but like I said, it's a dead room, so it brought some highs back. And as soon as I measured the speakers, it's just beautiful. It's just like it's not it. I don't feel like I'm getting this crazy amount of detail like the Barefoots, where it's just like mind blowing, just like holy shit, like. But I'm still getting the detail, but not in this like shimmery, soundy way, if that makes any sense. Like I'm trying to explain it, but it's hard to explain. But I just felt like I'm hearing the music as it's intended to be heard without a box flavor, if that makes sense, right? Without like a DSP flavor or, like whatever algorithm they got now is amazing because you don't feel like it's super corrected, right? I think they've got it down. Like I've heard Sonar Works. I use that. This is by far the best one I've heard. I mean, I'm not using Trinoff. I'm sure Trinoff is crazier, but come on, Trinoff is like 10 grand or whatever it is, right? But so yeah, I just going back to a 2-way, and it doesn't feel like a 2-way to me, right? I still get the same depth of a 3-way, and it could be the MTM design, but I still feel like I get the same depth. Especially when I roll off the lows, there's a lot of bass buildup in this room, so there's like a huge 30K, 30 hertz bump, but that's the room, right? So when I roll, it gives you the option to like make your own EQ curve. So as soon as I roll these speakers off, and I go back down to I don't know 40, 45 hertz, 50 hertz. These speakers are amazing, and um, let me just go to the website here so you can see. So now pretty much what I have is I have them defaulted at 50 at a 50 hertz cutoff, right? And they sound amazing. The transients are amazing. You know, I don't feel like I lost clarity in the transients from the Barefoots. The Barefoots were obviously amazing in transients, but I don't feel like I lost any transients. And uh the high end doesn't feel like I'm getting a flavor, if that makes sense, right? Um, you know, it these are the mark. I think these are the mark. Oh, these are the mark ones. Yeah, like I don't feel like I'm getting a flavor. You know, I just feel like everything is just neutral, right? Even with the low one, I just feel like it's neutral. So I feel like I got the perspective back. It's like right away, listening to other people's mixes, my favorite mixes, listening to all different genres of my favorite mixes right away. I don't even have to go listen to the entire song. I just skim through the songs and I already know what a good mix is supposed to sound like on the speakers. Instantly go to my sessions, instantly hear mistakes, make the changes, bounce, done. Like it's just I felt like I gained perspective back, if that makes sense. So yeah, I just wanted to share that because like I love the Barefoot sound, right? Like it sounds great, and like but I just wish I wish I could put the entire, I wish I could put I wish I could put into perspective more when I'm mixing with like a high end speaker like that because it's so hard for me to do that. Whereas like maybe it's because I'm just used to coming from like, oh maybe not. I was gonna say a two-way setup, but my dad had these super big Technics floor standards with like so many different, you know, two tweeters, two minutes. So, but you know, I just couldn't, I can't explain it. It's just like, they're just a great speaker, great transients. The depth of field is great. Stereo image is great. Obviously, it's dependent on your room. Like this room is super dead, like I said. So, depending on what kind of room you got, might depend on how they sound for you. Not trying to sell them. I'm just more of trying to like, you know, and then having said that, like my secondary pair of monitors I use are Reftone cubes, right? It's essentially like an Auratone, but it's a brand called Reftone. Literally go from the Reftones to those, and then when I want to check the low end, I'll roll back you know, I have it cut at 50. I'll bring all the lows back, make changes quickly, check on my VSX headphones, and I'm done. And it's quick, and it sounds and it translates everywhere on the phone, on car speakers everywhere. So I think we gotta, as engineers, producers, or whatever, I think we gotta like remember who we're mixing for. And yes, it's great to get these amazing speakers, but nobody's gonna hear that amazingness but you in your setup. So it's important to keep perspective of, you know, the your audience who are listening in most of the time shitty speakers, right? So like going back down to two-way for me felt familiar and it felt right, glorified two-way or whatever. But I just think it's the perfect in between. Yes, I'm used to the two ways. I love the three-way sound, but I don't want to go back down to just two speakers. So getting the two mids and the tweeter was like the perfect sweet spot, right? So like these are my speakers for as long as they last. I've had them for like I'd say like probably 5 months now. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of give you guys a little perspective on that. You know, just I know everybody's into buying speakers and like leveling up your sound, and that's all fine. But at the end of the day, it's about results, right? It's a results oriented business. So yeah. So I'll catch you guys on the next video and talk about some other shit. Peace.